Hi everyone and welcome to episode 10 of Future Work World, the podcast that focuses on the now, the nexts and the could-bes of work. I'm Barry Winkless, I'm CSO of CPL Group and head of the Future Work Institute. Let's dive right in. So what I'd like to talk about today in our trends section is this idea of agentic AI. So we're obviously all living right in the middle of this new AI world. Some of us are a little bit worried about the impact of AI. I know from a recent piece of work done by the Future Work Institute, we're highlighting about 30% of people worried about the impact of AI on their jobs. And already the tech wizards out there are working on a new level, a new evolution of AI called agentic AI. And really what this means is a set of AI tools that will be able to assess and plan and do actual tasks on our behalf. The suggestion is that by about 2025, 26, there'll be a number of very advanced pieces of work done in this area. And we really get a sense through that type of work of how that type of technology will actually impact our jobs, either from an automation perspective, which is taking tasks away, or from an augmentation perspective, which is really helping us to do our jobs better. So I'm quite interested in agentic AI. A lot of talk about it at the moment. Don't see a huge amount of really meaningful case studies, but I think it's something we need to keep an eye on. I think we're probably getting to the point where we need to start thinking about AI as almost a co-worker, as another person that works alongside us, as opposed necessarily to just technology. So agentic AI, keep an eye on, and let's make sure that you're well versed in that type of technology over the next couple of years. And now on to the interview segment of our show, where I'm very happy to welcome Rhonda Bronenberg, VP of Process Alliance, and somebody with a huge amount of experience in manufacturing solutions. And now on to our interview. It's really fantastic to welcome Rhonda Bronenberg, who is VP of Manufacturing Services at Process Alliance, which is a US-based and global problem-solving company and consulting firm for companies in the pharmaceutical and bioagricultural industry. Rhonda has an incredible background in manufacturing, stretching from companies like Collins Aerospace, Eli Lilly, and beyond. Rhonda, it's great to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much.
All the way from the US.
Yes.
Yeah, so thanks very much for joining us. Very much appreciate that. Rhonda, I'm going to ask a little bit about your background because it's quite interesting and really how you got to your role in Process Alliance.
Yeah, for sure. I worked for a large pharmaceutical company in the States for 27 years and held roles in technical services and most recently operations management. In 2017, that company offered a significant early retirement package that myself and several of my colleagues took advantage of. At the time, one of my colleagues, Darren Thompson, who is the owner of Process Alliance, also took that package, and he and I discussed me joining on with him at that time. But I couldn't make that happen because I had already committed to a job out in Oregon, so I moved to the West Coast of the United States. But he and I kept in contact. And in 2021, he and I reconnected, and I was able to make the leap back from Collins Aerospace in the aerospace industry to Process Alliance back in the pharmaceutical field. And, you know, I've never looked back since then. I'm super happy. I feel like the pharmaceutical world is my passion, and I feel like I can add significant value in that space. Yeah,
I'm actually, you just mentioned your colleague who established Process Alliance, and I'm really interested actually in the origin story of Process Alliance, because in my head, I'm sorry for saying this, Rhonda, and in no way, questioning your level of maturity, but really it was a motivated group of retirees that came together to do something different. Is that a fair to say that?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. We started out, like I said, we had that early retirement, and there were several people that took advantage of it, and those folks had a diverse background of experiences, primarily in the engineering field, and Darren felt compelled to collect retirees. And the advantage of that is those folks have so much experience that they could go into almost any situation and immediately help solve problems. The original mission of the company was to bridge the gap between project construction and getting the plant up and running, because on the design side, sometimes in the design space, they miss some specific details that are really important when you're in a running facility. And with the experience base of our folks, they were able to bridge that gap and help the designers design facilities that are more operable. Now, since that time, we've added 4 different business units to the mix to help expand our service offerings to our clients.
Yeah, really interesting. I'm kind of thinking, obviously, there's a huge advantage, obviously, in having that more mature demographic, right? But I'm interested, you guys are growing, and I'm interested in how you're trying to bring that mix of generations into the business. So yes, you have this core of people who really know their stuff, but obviously, you maybe need to sprinkle some different generations in there. How are you kind of trying to get there?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, with the 4 additional business units, we've had to expand our workforce significantly, and now there are several younger folks. But that core group still provides the anchor to the business. They have such great experience. The advantage is, obviously that experience. They walk in almost any place and they can do, I've seen this before, been there, done that, and immediately make an impact with the client. The other advantage with that more senior group is they don't have to work. They're choosing to work, part-time, or they'll do a project for 2 or 3 months, and then they'll take 2 or 3 months off. They like to travel in the summer or go camping or whatever. The other significant advantage with having those folks is when you can pair them up with a junior person on a project. So then that creates a super win-win situation, because the client gets the high value of the senior person, but then when there's legwork to be done out in the field, the early in career EICs, you might hear me use that acronym, the early in career folks can do a lot of the legwork on site, because you don't want to pay the higher priced senior consultant to run around and measure pipes and take pictures and things like that. But then the younger folks get the advantage of hearing the high-level theory and the super technical stuff, and then they get to see it kind of come to fruition in the field. So it's a super great dynamic to have that blended workforce and the different generations. Yeah,
that's really interesting. And I suppose that leads me to my next question. You guys are scaling relatively rapidly, I would say, given the size that you are and the size that you're going to be. You're moving, obviously, into other countries.
Yes.
And I'm just interested, as a leader in the business, what are some of the challenges you're seeing in that scaling? What are you worried about, in terms of this hyper growth type situation? Because it can change a business a lot.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about your perspectives on that.
Well, so when I hired in 2021, we had 40 to 50 employees, mostly part-time.
Yeah.
Now here at the end of 2024, we have 130 to 140 employees, mostly full-time. So we are growing very rapidly. Back when I first hired in, we actually managed our timekeeping, our projects, our billing, our invoicing on Excel spreadsheets. And we're now about to launch our second ERP. So an ERP is the system to track all that stuff. We're about to launch our second one. We outgrew the first one that we adopted in 2 years. So we're really focusing in on infrastructure headed into 2025, so that we can get that system in place and we can get other business processes, key business processes that are necessary to expand and grow as fast as we're growing. So we've started documenting our business processes, proceduralizing them, et cetera, so that when new people come on board, it's a lot easier to explain to them what we do, how we do it. And so those processes will be more scalable.
Yeah.
And the things we're concerned about, we're a very flat organization, so we want to try to maintain that as best we can. Obviously, you grow to 300, 500 people, you're going to have some additional layers of management. We're going to try to keep that to a minimum to make sure that we don't get overdone in bureaucracy and all that. We need to stay flat and nimble as things change. Yeah.
And Rhonda, from your own personal perspective, what are the challenges you're seeing, from the scaling side? What are you worried about? Because you're in the middle of this every day of the week. I think you're on a call with me at 4 a.m, US time. And I'm just interested in, obviously you're very experienced, but what's keeping you awake a little bit in terms of where you guys are trying to get to?
Yeah, I think staying flat, and the other thing is maintaining our family style culture.
Yeah.
with that growing number of people. So it's very important that we work towards proceduralizing activities and continuing to make sure that everybody is in alignment with that culture and the goals of the company. That's hard to do as you get significantly larger. And also, we're spread out, and we're about to launch into business over here. So that's yet another complicating factor. I mean, like you said, I deal with the time zones, and it's not for everybody.
Yeah, you look pretty fresh to be Rhonda. So you're doing all right. I want to come back to your workforce model, and it's something that we talk a lot about on the show here. You've quite a unique model. So you mentioned it, you kind of alluded to it earlier on, which is this, core of, core employees, and then probably a halo of different types of employees. Talk to us a bit about that from your perspective as a business, and then maybe from the employee's perspective, because obviously that type of mixed model is working for different types of people. So can you tell us a bit about that and your experiences of that, how it's helped you, how it's maybe hindered you in some instances?
Yeah. So we've got core employees, we've got contractor employees. A lot of our senior folks fall into that contractor space because they also go out and kind of find work on their own.
Yeah.
And then we've got full-time and part-time. We've got some folks that have re-entered the workforce after some time off, which is really great as well. I think on the core employee side, we try to hire people for a career. So a lot of contract firms and consultancies will hire somebody, and it's for this contract. And then when that contract's done, that person is finding their own next assignment. We don't do that. We try to hire for a career. So we spend a lot of time focusing in on what's the next thing for this person. So that sets us apart quite a bit from a lot of traditional contract firms. We're also not really a staffing agency either, because though we do put people in seconded work, long-term full-time employment, but we provide them a significant level of support while they're doing that, instead of like other placement agencies. I had one of my guys tell me a story where he got dropped off and he didn't hear from his company for like 3 months. So we don't do that to people either. So when we place them, we provide that network of support. And then on the contract side, like I said, some of those are our senior folks. So they may go in on short-term work, which is really nice, because some things aren't long-term. So it's really nice to have that balance of, well, I'm okay working for the next 3 months, and then I'll be off, and that's okay. But then there's other folks that need that full-time work. But on that contract side, they'll also go out and find their own work. And they may do an assessment, or they may do, a month's worth of work. And then they go, you probably, to the client, you might need another person to work another 6 months on something to shore up whatever the assessment found. And that's where they'll come back to us and go, hey, do you have a person? Because we could really use some help over here. So that helps us get into other businesses as well. So it's a really dynamic model. Now, I think as we continue to grow, that management of those gaps between employment for the younger folks and the folks that need to work full time that'll be difficult to manage. That'll just increase as we go. But we are working on, an additional revenue stream that I think could help bridge that gap.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, in reality, process alliance, that phrase actually means something in terms of the business. It is a different type of a business model.
It is.
And plays to that mix of skills and type of employees. I know, Rhonda, you in particular, I know Process Alliance as a business, you're very much committed to this idea of purpose-led manufacturing. I know every time I mention this to you, your eyes light up. So I think we're getting onto a really interesting topic for you. Can you tell us a bit about what purpose-led manufacturing means in your world, and what does it mean to you? Why is it important?
Yeah. I just mentioned an additional revenue stream, and that we're in the early phases of planning a purpose-driven manufacturing facility. And initially, we're going to focus on a small scale, but we're going to make something. We're going to make maybe a component of a device or something in the injection molding space. The key part of that is it's going to be for the employees, we're going to hire folks that maybe need a second chance. So folks that have been some way impacted or involved in the justice system, and they just need a second chance. And I think, that's super important because they're going to work for a company that cares, for one, and we're going to invest time in training them and helping them. And they're also going to be working for a company that provides a product and service that helps people around the world in the pharmaceutical space. And I think from that perspective, it will help them be purposeful and feel connected to something for the greater good. And I think that will help them on their journey.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I like that connection between making something from a product perspective and then making something from a social perspective, which is very much part and parcel of the future of work in our minds anyway. I'd like to go into leadership now. And again, I know this is an interesting topic for you. When you talk a lot about next generation leadership. So what does that mean? What does that look like for Process Alliance? How's it going to help you guys grow? Because we hear these phrases and, thrown out there all the time, but I am interested because I know when we spoke before on the, it was something you specifically talked about. And I'm just interested in your views on next generation leadership, particularly in this manufacturing world, which sometimes can be challenging, shall we say, to bring new ways of thinking, and maybe break outside that box. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, particularly for Process Alliance, it is literally the next generation because so many of our senior leaders have already retired once, myself included. So it's really important for us to solidify the leadership of the company in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I would say in 10 years, most of us will have re-retired.
I'm going to use that phrase from now, re-retired.
Re-retired. Yeah. So we've identified a handful of folks that have the right mindset, the right work ethic, the qualities that we're looking for in Process Alliance and modeling our values on a day-to-day basis. And this year we started bringing them into our lead team meetings to observe and facilitate. And we also brought them into our quarterly meetings where we do a lot of strategy. So they got to kind of see how we think and how we talk and how we interact with each other and how we make decisions for the future. Going into 2025, we're going to be even more intentional with that and take a two-pronged approach. One is really opening up the hood and looking under the hood of Process Alliance into the finance aspect of the business and how we make additional decisions, how we pair up people and projects and what that decision-making process looks like with all the complications on full-time, part-time, remote, not remote, et cetera. So that's one piece of it, to really getting into the business acumen. And then the other piece is a more individualized leadership development program where we'll talk about crucial conversations and we might go into insights into personal effectiveness, and there'll be some feedback elements and components of it so that they can get a good view of themselves and maybe identify some blind spots for them personally. And then we also have identifying their specific working genius. So there's a book out about working genius. So we'll go through that exercise to try to optimize their own personal contribution and their personal development plan in addition to the business aspect.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And look, I suppose you guys are right bang in the middle of the trends, the changes happening in the whole pharmaceutical, bioagricultural space. Can you tell us about some of those trends? What do they mean to you? And maybe how you guys see some of those trends helping your mission, in terms of what you're trying to do. Right.
So I see just significant growth in the capacity space in all pharma and bioag, the monoclonal antibodies, biotech, the individualized medicines, and AI. AI is really, really starting to come into the pharmaceutical world. Process Alliance is starting the conversations. We've got a connection with a gentleman I worked with out on the West Coast. So we're just starting to dabble into that. But on the capacity side, there's just significant growth. I saw a map of Ireland of all the planned construction and new facilities that are ongoing. It's in the $6 to $8 billion range. So the way that companies like Process Alliance can really benefit from that is as you take a facility from construction to start up and running, there's a super heavy lift.
Yeah.
So you need a whole bunch of people to try to make that happen. And so a lot of times the companies themselves don't want to hire that many people and then have to go through some layoff or redeployment or something like that. So they'll contract that out. That's where companies like Process Alliance can step in and put boots on the ground and provide some of that high-level technical consulting expertise to those younger folks and to the business, like I said, in the design space early on. But that's a real key component for us. The other thing about that is if we go into a company during that startup phase and we really knock it out of the park, a lot of times in the running facilities, they'll still have some level of contract support. Maybe we can win that work as well, which obviously creates good business for us, but then it allows our folks to sit in a running facility and get really great experiences and become some of those next-gen technical leaders, next-gen business leaders.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And last question, believe it or not, Rhonda, so it wasn't too bad, I hope.
No, it's not too bad.
You guys are scaling. You're looking for different types of talent. You're looking for those kind of next geniuses that are going to drive your business forward. If you're having a casual conversation with somebody around Process Alliance, what makes your business a unique place to work?
Well, definitely our people and our culture, which is driven by our values, authentic integrity, faithful stewardship, and courage. We have a mantra of no teams of one. So even if you're a younger employee and you've been deployed to do some technical writing out remotely in another client and you don't have a lot of connections on site, we still provide great connections to our people. We have one of our programs is a direct connect, and it's every employee is directly connected to either a VP or a director. So they get insights into what's going on in the business. That's a safe place for them to vent. That person's their advocate, a development coach. So they get a lot of connection there. We also have, they're also going to have a project manager or an engagement lead that will help them kind of with their day-to-day. And then we have early in career groups that they can get involved with. They have business unit meetings, town halls to keep people connected. And at the end of the summer, in September, we always have a big party. And the big party is held at the owner's property. He's got a big, big backyard. And so we all gather there and they fly in everybody, no matter where you live. You're invited to fly in, and a company paid for. And we have this big celebration with dinner and a band and all that. And you get to meet a lot of people that maybe you've never connected with before. And I think that is key to us. I would say we're trying to create that, continue that small family-owned business culture, but get big business results.
Great. Thanks very much, Rhonda. So I'd like to say thank you very much for coming on the show. Very much appreciate it. And you're always welcome back. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for the show today. It's been fantastic speaking with Rhonda. And I would ask you all, please, to subscribe to Future Work World on all of the most popular platforms from YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, and beyond. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.